Okay, this is the number 2 video on trying to learn how to be a standard guitar player adapting to steel. So we were messing around with moving the bar correctly and getting thick sound out of it. One of the things that's very important when we're trying to do that is that we land on pitch. Well, that's actually tough because the visual, you can see that I'm on. But my eye's over here looking sideways, so when I look down there, I can barely see the fret when I'm on. When I get up here, I actually cannot see the fret. My visual is that. My visual is a big fat hand over the top of about 3 frets. So there's one of the tricks to learning to play well. When you're playing bottleneck, you actually can see better than you can on a steel or a lap steel. So what do we do about it? Well, the old trick that's been done forever is a slide into the note if you have a good ear, okay? So if the band's playing A right on, right? Then I'm gonna go, listen to, meet me at the station, right? None of it starts on the fret, did it? It all started a whole fret down and worked its way up. That's not because just for the sound. We love the sound. But the truth is, I know I'm on pitch now, okay? Because I slid up into it. So that's going to be your first trick. Do that because it sounds good. And we're used to hearing it because that's what's been used forever on it, okay? So, like I say, if we're just praying A, D, and E, let's say, and I want you just to work on those and go. And I challenge you that the vibrato might have been a little bit of a cheat. I know I use it all the time. If I'm not sure I'm right on pitch, I'm gonna purposely use the vibrato, okay? And when I jumped up to do something, grab the 7th or the 6th up higher, I'm not going to really hold myself to, I got to hit it right on pitch. Don't need to. That's not the sound I'm looking for. I'm looking for that. Remember, standard guitar's grabbing right on. I don't need to do that. What I need to do is flavor it up. One other thing I didn't cover in the last video I want to cover. This wrist. The dropped wrist will kill you, okay? It's going to cramp and kill you. Watch David, he's clear up here. That wrist is completely flat. You can read his watch, okay? So, that's really important. When I talk about David, I need to say one more thing too, because David is a huge influence on Melobar, okay, on me and a lot of things. Who I knew as David, just as who knew me when I was 17, 18, 19 years old in 1982, 3, 4, 5. Who David was in 1983, 4, 5 is a lot different than what most people are thinking of David. He was the top in the world when I knew him, okay? And we didn't call him Dave, okay? He was David Lindley. He was the man. And he was forming El Rayo X. He was coming probably at the peak of his career, to be honest. And he was trying to step out and, of course, make his own band and stop being the guy that's 10 feet from fame. So he was really stepping out when I knew him. So I don't know why I have to bring that up, but there's just 2 different people there. Okay? So you young guys that are watching old stuff, the one with him and Bonnie Raitt, that's not the David I'm talking about. I'm talking about the David back in 83, 84, 85 that played on MTV and was outstanding at the electric lap steel. Electric is a lot less forgiving. And so, anyhow, I want you to watch those old videos There's a couple on YouTube. I've even posted a couple that show David at his peak and when he's playing the V Melobar and stuff. Man, so that's what I'm talking about, okay? And that's why I say is I think what started that was the watch. I don't think he wore it later years, you know what I mean? But I watched a lot of videos and watched that watch a lot. So anyhow, that wrist coming up is real important. It also puts a little more pressure out there on the front of the bar, and that's really important to it, okay? So you're starting to get to where you're starting to work a little bit. One of the things that we like to hear as a standard guitar player is a bluesy sound. I've covered this in the Mozart video. That means you don't want... You're tuned to a major chord and you're used to a minor in there, right? Now you make it very steely, pushing hard and kind of giving a little vibrato there. But if I want to blues it up, I'm going to not keep my bar perfectly straight. A lot of bottleneck has a slight twist to it. If you watch hours of it like I have, you'll see it, trying to figure out sound. And it's like, I don't like my Melobar when I was a kid, you know. It's like, it sounds like a steel guitar, and I want to sound like rock and roll. I want to sound like B.B. King. Well, that's... Okay, I am not on pitch there, okay? We did a boom, 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 which I've done a lot of. I would realize I'm slightly off pitch, a little sharp. All of those things are sounds we like, okay? Those are the sounds that Notice also letting the fingers float, getting a little buzz, just a tiny bit, because that's bottleneck, okay? A little looser, a little sloppier. Taking the third, flatting it, and bringing it up is rock and roll, right? Minor third to the major third. So is the 6th to the 7th. Those are things that you're looking for. Those two sounds are very important ones to if you want to get more of a rock and roll slide sound. What's fun about that when you're playing with a group is if you've been doing you know, that nice steel sound, and everyone likes it because it's unique. You haven't heard it for a bit. But then you get into another song and you go... The difference is really important for making you a player that has something more for the band that gives them more stuff, because you got the bottleneck sound and you have kind of a steel guitar sound, okay? So those are kind of, you know, player things. One other thing I want to cover, if I have the time here, I do. So this is a unique body style. I'm actually thinking of building a few more like this. This is my #1 Melobar now. Love it, okay? Couple odd things, you know, 3 pickup, volume tone on each with no switch. All of them have to talk a little bit. The XL500 in the front is the steel sound. The next one's a Pro Bucker, and the next one's a Seymour Duncan Hot Rails. So quite a uniqueness in sound. But what is working well is the front is cut back enough where I can get my hand up. And your Rozak model won't, okay? Your Mozart model will be borderline. So you've got a little bit of limited access up here that was always a Melobar fight. Is what created, that's why the V was just great. And thank you, Gibson, for never giving us trouble with that. So the V and the Explorer made those so you could get up high. But the other thing is, there's kind of a leverage thing back here, how your arm goes over the top, pushes this guitar around. That's why the foam body was a big deal, because you could push it around, shove it, get it right where it felt right, and the foam would just hold it there. So the foam body actually is probably the best one. Again, not to get over David Lindley, but when we gave him the foam body one, he said, this is the best guitar you guys have ever made, sound-wise. Because Dad put a 1/4-inch thick steel plate under the neck. And I remember him spending a year cutting bodies down, and playing them and listening and asking, everybody questions that they're, trying to figure out how much sustain the body was, how important it was to Melobar, because we've got this big neck already. So cutting off some of the body didn't matter. And by the time he did the foam, which should dampen, right? And he put the steel plate on the back, all the sustain from that bridge was going into that steel plate. And it had a lot of bite and more sustain than a wood body, really. You notice I still play a wood body. But anyhow. And same thing with the bronze nut, brass saddles, all those things are for sustain. So what happens with Melobar, and I had a guy, kind of panic on me. He's a lap steel player, so he's used to being here. And you see where my hands are and the bar is when I play lap steel. Well, he buys a Melobar because he digs the look and the idea, and he puts it on, and all of a sudden everything changed, right? Now I'm at an angle. My eyes see differently than and things move. There's not a leg under there keeping that from moving. So I put a strap on a lot of times, but I'm really holding it with this arm back here. This arm's bracing it all. This is where the double neck, the telebar, is amazing because it's so big up here that by the time you go over the top, Melobar's solid as a rock, and you're farther away from the neck, which makes it, just easier to play. So telebars are great for that. But if you're playing a standard body Melobar, one of the things you're going to have to adapt to, especially if you're a lap steel player, is that all of a sudden the neck won't stay here. Okay, my big fat gut isn't even helping. It's going out there. By the time this arm comes in, look where it's going. And it's shooting literally straight out from me. Oops, I was hoping the video would show up, but it won't. It's shooting like this would be straight. I put my arm on, and look where the neck goes. It just went that way away from me. And I got to reach out here. It's a long reach. This is where it should be. And it's clear over here if my arm's tight on this body. I've gotten used to it, okay? It means that I have to play with that angle out there. And I've got angle to it. That's a lot of changes. That's why a lot of lap steel guys can't adapt to Melobar. And steel guys struggle a lot. Sitting at a table versus this is huge. That's why, Troy Klontz and those guys were, like I say, innovative and really wanted to stand up and play, They were going to figure out how to make that work. And a lot of them got what we call the Melobar hunch. The shoulder went up trying to hold that body right, and get in the claw position because they're trying to get here. So the shoulder came up like this. So we call it the Melobar hunch. So how do I deal with all that? Well, one of the things is lower the guitar down a little bit with your strap and put a strap on it because the strap's going to come out and put it on the head. Don't use that strap peg that's on the old Melobar heads. I don't trust them at all. I'm afraid they're going to break. These are 60-year-old guitars, So put a Dobro strap that goes around the whole head. Now, once you've done that, and I go quite a ways out. I go way out, almost to the end. David went almost completely to the end, I noticed, the way he strapped the V. And that keeps the strap away from my arm and that wrist having to be up, right? And then you're just adapting to it. And I was telling the guy, well, either adapt or give it up. I don't know how to help you because, if you've ever played any other guitar, they're all different, a Les Paul, you got to adapt because it's going to weigh you down to the floor eventually, right? Versus a Strat. So it's adapting to the instrument to make it work for you with what you want to get sound-wise. It's about sound. So, because Melobar is unique, right? It has a different sound than lap steel. It's thinner and stuff because it's an alder neck. It's, one piece of wood, always one piece of wood, every one of them. But for sustain, but it's quite different. And so I know that I'm going to play out here, I'm just curious if you can see the difference that fret looks to me. I can see the fret now. Barely can see it. Barely. Can't see it. Can't see it at all. Can't see it at all. Can't see it at all. So I have to adapt to all that. Like I say, we're doing the... So we don't have to see it, but if you stay with the same scale length, you're going to find eventually you'll get to where you you just play right, you know. But it's almost a feel thing more than it's a visual thing. So I think that kind of covers this one for this lesson. Like I say, you do have to adapt, and that takes a little time. You have to give yourself the time to adapt.